Like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Ba'Hashem Rachah Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. And the name of this one is And Again with the Hell Thing. And pretty much, I was watching a video earlier today with Elder Pastor, and then I watched the other video that he did his video off of, which was the brother Gabar Yahweh out there in the elder Gabar Yahweh out there in Hawaii. And when I was watching the elder's video, he pretty much went into a quote that I speak on from time to time when I'm going into the hell doctrine, the false hell doctrine or pseudo hell doctrine, with the movie Robin Hood with Jamie Foxx in it, and the individual that played Robin Hood. He had a meeting with the cardinal. I thought it was Archbishop, but it was actually a cardinal. And pretty much he spoke about fear. And then the cardinal said, fear. He said, fear, the greatest weapon in God's arsenal. That's why the church invented hell. And they put it right out there in your face. You know, they're not even hiding it. But people are still, these Christians and these false prophets among Israel are still teaching that hell doctrine nonsense. I usually sometimes go to the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary and look up the word Gehenna, right? And pretty much in that source, it tells you, that Gehenna is, was a place where Israel would go and burn their sons and their daughters, right? And it was telling you it was a valley in Hinnom. That's where you get the Greek word Gehenna from. It's actually a Hebrew word, Gaya'ah Hanam, or something like that. And pretty much within that, the definition of Gehenna, it said that later apocalyptic writers, how did they write it? Rabbis, after the Old Testament, I believe it said rabbis began to use Gehenna as the entrance to hell, later hell itself. So it was all a made-up concoction, a fable. And the funny thing about it is the elder Damashapad, he has a Zondervan's Pictorial Dictionary. And I looked up Gehenna and I kind of browsed through it and I didn't see that entry in there. So I don't know if they removed it out or if this, I don't know how it went down, but that is in the older books, the older ones that are in there, it's actually there, but they removed it out of there. So I had thought of a couple of precepts, and now that I'm getting ready to do the lesson, I actually went back to another precept that I was reading earlier, and I want to highlight it, start with this one because this explains a lot. And in order for you to understand certain breakdowns in the scriptures, you have to understand certain words, which means you have to go back to the Hebrew origin of the word or the Greek origin of the word. And that's why it's important to look up words, because when you look up words and you see what the word is, then you'll have a better understanding of what is meant by that passage. Because it could be deceptive, or it could be, you won't understand it unless you understand the actual words there in the original language it was written in, whether Hebrew or Greek. So the scripture I'm going to start off with is in the book of Mark, the 9th chapter. We're going to start at the 42nd verse because, the IUIC, their whole thing with Bishop Nathaniel is, that they're talking about a third hell or something along those lines where the worm and dieth not and the fire is not quenched. Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind because this scripture goes into that. We're going to touch on it and then we're going to look up the word hell, and then we're going to give more understanding and go into the origins of this word. And even when you look up the Greek word Gehenna, it tells you where the origins of that word come from. So, nevertheless, let's get started. Mark chapter 9, verse 42. And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he were cast into the sea. And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed than having two hands to go into hell, into the fire that never shall be quenched. And as you read on down, it says, where the worm dieth not. Right? So in order to understand this, because if you just read it face value, you're going to think it's talking about the actual place, hell, as they teach in these churches. But when we go to the origin of the word hell, which is the key word in this whole in this whole verse, is the word Gehenna or Gehenna. Gehenna, right? Now, when we go to Gehenna, it tells you where the root word comes from. But before we read the root word, and you can look this up yourself, I'm going to go to the definition. It says, hell is the place of the future punishment called Gehenna or Gehenna of fire. This was originally the valley of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem, where the filth and dead animals of the city were cast out and burned, a fit symbol of the wicked and their future destruction. And that's pretty much all it means. When the scriptures speak about hellfire and the hell and all of that, it's talking about future destruction, because the destruction that's coming is going to be set up by fire, which are the nuclear missiles and the lasers from the chariots. When you go back to the origins of the word, which the word goes back to the Hebrew, Gaya Hanam, it goes back to that, which that means the valley of Hinnom. All right. And now, what was the valley of Hinnom? We have to go to that. There was another point that came to mind dealing with the valley of Hinnom, dealing with the hell origin. Let's see, Gaya Hanam. Let's see if I can remember what it was. There was another point. If it doesn't come back, then we'll just move on. And if the Spirit brings it back, then Lord's will I go back to it. Oh, yeah, Barakateh, how about Shemal Shai? Yeah, when you go back to the origins of the Valley of Hinnom, you know, there are some sources that tell you that it was a place, you know, it was pretty much a garbage dump where they would burn garbage. And pretty much sometimes they would burn criminals there. And that was the same place where Israel would sacrifice their sons and their daughters by fire unto Molech. See, so Yahushua was using that as a future symbol of the destruction that's coming by fire, by way of the thermonuclear destructions and the lasers from the chariots. So when we go to Jeremiah 7 and 20, now when you go to, if you type in Hinnom or Valley of Hinnom, you're going to get several scriptures where it's at, beginning in the book of Joshua. You're going to go to Second Chronicles, I believe Second Kings, Nehemiah, and I believe Jeremiah. All right, because it was an actual place in South Jerusalem or south of Jerusalem. All right, so you have to keep that in mind to understand the whole, concept of why Yahushua used that term Gehenna. Another word that's used in the Greek is Hades, which Hades is a Greek word which means grave. It also is synonymous with the Hebrew word Sha'awal, which also means grave. So in Jeremiah 7 and 20, right, it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord power, behold, mine anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place, upon man and upon beast, and upon the trees of the field, and upon the fruit of the ground, and it shall burn and shall not be quenched. So the Lord was telling Jake that they were going to be judged. In this case, at this time, he was dealing with the Babylonians, that they were going to come and destroy them and destroy the temple. All right, now when we jump down to the 20, matter of fact, I just continue to read on. We got quite a few verses to get through, but that's cool. It says, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the power of Israel, put your burnt offerings unto your sacrifices in the flesh, for I spake not unto you your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. But this thing commanded I them, saying, Obey my voice, and I will be your power, and you shall be my people, and walk in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well with you, well unto you, because what happens if they didn't obey? They would be destroyed, according to the words of the Lord by his prophets. It says, but they hearken not, nor incline their ear, but walk in the counsel and in the imagination of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward, since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Egypt unto this day. I have even sent unto you all my servants the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. Yet they hearken not unto me, nor inclined their ear, but hardened their neck. They did worse than their fathers. So pretty much this same trend continues on even to this very day. So you see how the Lord, when you go back in history, the Lord actually gave Israel warning after warning after warning after warning after warning by the prophets. And eventually, after so many warnings, the Lord actually brought the judgment, which was by whatever means it was, whether it was a different nation or whether it was, Jake just, dying of starvation or whatever the case may be, or wild beasts. It says, therefore thou shalt speak all these words unto them, but they will not hearken to thee. Thou shalt call unto them, but they will not answer thee. But thou shalt say unto them, this is the nation that obeyeth not the voice of the Lord their power, nor receiveth correction. Truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth. And that's why Jake is in such a fucked up condition as they are today, even back then. Cut off thine hair, O Jerusalem, and cast it away, because this is a sign of mourning, and take up a lamentation on high places. Why? Because the Lord is going to judge you for your disobedience. It says, for the Lord hath rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath, for the children of Judah have done evil in my sight, saith the Lord power. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name to pollute it. So the Lord was getting angry. And he was getting angrier and angrier because Jake just kept, not only were they breaking the laws, but they were also, desecrating the holy places. And a lot of the leaders back then were doing this, So it wasn't just the lower, class of Israel. It was even the leaders that was doing this. Certain kings, counselors, higher up princes, just higher up individuals that were put in certain positions. They were going off. So the Lord kept giving them warning. And after a while, I say, you know what? After warnings. So it goes on to say, and they have built the high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom. This is the origin of Gehenna, or that hellfire. All right, the valley of Hinnom, which Yahweh shall use as future judgment of the destruction that's coming to the ones that are disobedient. Just like in this time, they were destroyed that were disobedient. It says, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my heart. So this is a place where they burned their children. This is also a garbage dump where they burnt garbage. And in some research that you do, they'll tell you that they actually burnt criminals there also. But that source there is a little scarce. But we know definitely that Jake burnt their children there, and that it was a garbage dump. All right, and more than likely they did burn the criminals there, because certain penalties of breaking the law would cause for somebody to get burnt. It says, listen up. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, that it shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. And this, I'm not sure if it was this whole verse or part of it was in that movie, The Road. On one of those empty billboards, it was written out. And that's pretty much what it is, the valley of slaughter. So Yahushua was using this example in the scriptures to portray to Jake the destruction that's going to come in the future for them. All right. So it says, for they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place, and the carcasses of this people shall be meat for the fowls of heaven, and for the beasts of the earth, and none shall fray them away. Then will I cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride. For the land shall be desolate, and pretty much there will be great lamentation and mourning, and because of the judgment that the Lord brought upon them. So he used this area as a fit symbol for the coming calamities, destruction, and judgment that's coming to Jacob for being disobedient. All right, now before we read the next scripture, let's go back to Mark, because I want to hit another point here. This will be Mark, the 9th chapter, and the 44th verse, and it goes on to say, where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched. All right, meaning when it speaks about a fire that's not quenched, it means a fire that you won't not be able to put out. You won't have enough people to pour water on it. You won't have enough fire trucks, or rescue, people to put out these fires. And these fires will burn for a long, 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 long time. But eventually they will go out on their own. No one will quench them. They will go out on their own. Like certain fires that are burning in the forest, you have to let them burn out. Because, no matter what you do, it's impossible to put out some of those fires. So you have to wait until it burns itself out. That's what's going to happen with America. After a certain amount of generations, the fire is going to stop burning. Now, when we go to Jeremiah 17 to show you something, and one, I'm going to jump around to a couple of verses here. It says, the sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars, right? Now let's jump to the 13th verse. O Lord, the hope of Israel, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed. So the point here is what? Though the sin of Judah and pretty much the forsaking of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai by not following his ways. And they that depart from me shall be written in the earth, because they have forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living waters. Okay? Now let's jump down to the 27th verse, which is the last verse. And listen good to this. But if you will not hearken unto me to hallow the Sabbath day, and not to bear a burden, even entering in all the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then I will kindle the fire in the gates thereof, right? And it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem, right? Which this happened during the time of the Babylonians, and it shall not be quenched. So you see, it's a metaphor, because although they destroyed Jerusalem, no one was able to put out those fires. Or no one was able to stop that judgment. And that's what the Lord was speaking about. This judgment that's coming, no one is going to be able to stop it. And when America is fully engulfed in flames, it will burn for a long period of time. Now let's go from there to the book of Isaiah 34. We're going to start at 5. The point is a little further down. So you can see that this is also the judgment of America, because Isaiah 34 is speaking about America being destroyed. Okay, by fire. All right, and you're going to watch what it says when we start reading some of these verses down, which goes along with it shall not be quenched, where the fire is not quenched, because it's going to burn for a long period of time. Isaiah 34 and 5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, which are the Edomites, the so-called white people, and upon the people of my curse to judgment, all of them. Not just Esau the man, the Edomite nation. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Bosra. So the Lord's going to have a sacrifice. So in order to have a sacrifice, you have to have the animal that's to be sacrificed. And you also have to have an altar, and you also have to have fire. All right? And as you've heard Elder Apostle Torah say before, America is the great altar. And the people are going to be the sacrifice, including the animals, right? It says, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea, which is dealing with America. It says, and the unicorn shall come down with them. That's dealing with your satellites. Everything that you have is going to fall when Yahushua comes back. And the bullocks with them, with the bulls, And their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. Why? Because this place here is set up for destruction. It says for you could say this would be like Gehenna, like the valley of Hinnom, because it's going to be a great fire that's going to engulf this whole place to clean it up. For it is a day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion, and that's where the Lord is going to do it. And the streams thereof shall be burned, shall return into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. So this whole place is going to be engulfed in fire, right? America from east to west, north to south is going to be engulfed in fires and flames, right? Then it says, it shall not be quenched day nor night, because no one is going to be able to put this fire out. It shall not be quenched day nor night. What the fire dieth not, right? The smoke thereof shall go up forever, meaning for a long period of time, for an age. From generation to generation shall it lie waste, because you got to remember this big land that's going to be on fire with everything in it, and all the natural gases, coal and everything, propane, whatever, kerosene, is going to go up for a long period of time, and no one is going to be able to put it out. And it says, none shall pass through it forever and ever, because it won't be inhabited again. But it says, but the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. Why is that? Is it because these animals are fire retardant? They have asbestos suits. Maybe they have special asbestos wings where they're going to be able to sit in the fire. No, because eventually it's going to go out on its own. No one is going to quench it. No one is going to turn it off. And then once the smoke clears, so to speak, then you're going to have these wild desert creatures living here and inhabiting this place. This is what Yahushua was speaking about. It's a metaphor, all right, for the future judgment of America. Not no place of hell that you go and burn forever. All right, so it says, but the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, the owl also and the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. Why? Because you're not going to know where one state started and the other one ended. You're not going to know where any of the major cities were. You're not going to know where any of the major, buildings were, whether it was, banks, or whether it was a mall, whether it was, some type of governmental building. You ain't going to know where Disney World was at. You ain't going to know where Bear Mountain was at. You ain't going to know where none of these places were at. Hollywood, none of that, because it's all going to be turned into dust. There's not going to be any markers or anything, a reminder, of anything that resembled America. But that this burnt mountain, as the Lord called it, is going to be a monument to the world of what it is, what judgment befalls you when you become wicked. All right. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all the princes shall be nothing. Why? Because they're going to be destroyed and won't be here. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, right? So in other words, there's not going to be any palaces. But where the palaces used to be at, what the White House was at, where the Pentagon was at, where these different Supreme Court buildings were at, these different governmental buildings were at, you're going to have thorns, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof. You have these different Fort Wayne and Fort Jackson and Fort Stewart and Fort Worth and Fort Dix. All of these different forts around America. What's going to be there is what? Nettles, brambles. It says, and it shall be an habitation of dragons and a court for owls. So how is this going to be possible? Because eventually, after a long period of time, those fires will burn out, the smoke will clear, and this land will be inhabited by desert creatures. It says, the wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest. There shall the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch, and gather under her shadow. There shall the vultures also be gathered, everyone with her mate. So that's what it's talking about. This place, you won't be able to turn it off. There's not going to be no water hose or fire truck big enough to turn this place off. It's going to have to go out on its own. And eventually, when it does finally go out, after however many years the Lord is going to have it burn, then you're going to have those desert creatures move in here and inhabit this place once again. But never will mankind dwell here. All right, so this is the fifth symbol. This is why Yahweh shall use Gehenna fire, or that the valley of slaughter, as the future judgment for those that disobey Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And you could read it, for yourself. You could go do the research. And guess what? If you can't get it, then that means it's not meant for you. Because this whole hell doctrine has reared his ugly head up again. And I'm surprised, I'm shocked. I'm surprised at Bishop Nathaniel. I could understand, him not accepting the MOTB being a micro C hip. As a thing of pride, pretty much, because the receipts that are out there are phenomenal. But the hell doctrine, come on, man. Come on, dog. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.